This is supply and this is demand. And these are insane tricks I'm going to be sharing with you, including this trick that will make your zones 3 times more accurate.
Oh, well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect!
Supply and demand is one of the most important subjects to understand in trading. Even the kids are talking about it these days.
Joe, have you heard of that new supply and demand stuff? Yeah, dude, that stuff is awesome!
But there's a good reason for that. Everybody is talking about it because of how well it works. I'm going to be showing you how to draw zones correctly, what to look for, how to enter, how to exit. Of course, I'm going to be giving you some secrets about how I improved the performance of my supply and demand zone. Basically, it is a full, in-depth guide on supply and demand, absolutely for free, so you do not have to go to some of these scam websites to get it. Enough with all the intro stuff, let's get into that juicy finger-looking value. So, what is supply and what is demand? Supply is an area where price had aggressive selling and demand is an area where price had aggressive buying. So supply going down and demand going up. But one of the very key important factors of supply and demand is that the move has to be very aggressive. For example here, this move would not be considered an area of demand. Sure, you have a decently sized green candle right here, but this wouldn't be considered enough to be an area of demand. What we are looking for is aggressive buying. Like I'm talking about moms on Black Friday. So for example, here you can see from this point on that there was extreme buying once price hit this area. So once price hit the zone, there was aggressive buying, as you can see from this price action right here. This would be considered a successful demand zone. So recap. You need aggressive buying or aggressive selling in order for it to be a good zone. If it's just a couple candles moving up or down, then it's not considered a supply and demand zone. Let's move on to how to draw these zones correctly, then I'll give you a secret trick to make them more accurate. There are many ways to draw supply and demand zones. Everybody has their own way of doing it. This is just how I personally do it, as I've seen the best results with this method. Here we have our chart, and as you can see, we have aggressive buying. How I draw my demand zones is by finding an indecisive candle before the aggressive move. So since this is an aggressive upward move, we are going to draw a demand zone. So what we want to do is find the indecisive candle right before the aggressive buying, which is right here. Then you want to draw your area from the height of the candle. So from the low of the indecisive candle to the high of the indecisive candle, this is your demand zone. Isn't it beautiful? Here's an example we found for supply. Here we have aggressive selling, so we find an indecisive candle right before the big bearish move. Draw an area from the low to the high of the indecisive candle. This is our supply zone. Pretty simple. So that's the easy part. The easy part is drawing the area, but not all of these areas that we draw are going to be good areas. Actually, most of them are going to be invalid areas. This is how you decipher a valid area from an invalid area.
Wow!
A valid zone will have a break of structure. So here we have an aggressive downward move. So we follow the steps I told you before and make our supply zone. Next, we need price to break this structure right here, which means this zone is now validated and we can trade based on that. In this example, we again have an aggressive downward move, but this time it does not break the structure, so this zone is not validated, and we will not trade off this. It needs to have both an aggressive move and a break of structure to be a valid zone. So now that we know the criteria of a valid supply and demand zone, let's move on to how to actually enter and exit based off those criteria. Then we'll go over that secret juicy trick to improve your zones to make them spectacular. So here we have an aggressive upward buying. We have a big movement, so that's step 1 complete. Now with step 2, we always want to ensure that when the demand zone or supply zone is created, there's less traffic, meaning that the time in the zone isn't much. The less traffic we have in the area of indecision, the stronger the demand zone or supply zone. So in summary, the faster out of the zone, the stronger the zone. Especially if you're just starting out with supply and demand zones, I recommend that you only trade the stronger zones in the beginning. We draw our zone from the indecision candle. Now, this is how you will do your entry and exit. You're going to enter as soon as price comes back down to the zone. You're going to set your stop loss right below the zone, and you're going to set your take profit at the high of the upward move. So you'd set your take profit right here. As you can see, we have a great risk to reward ratio, and the trade instantly hits our valid demand zone and skyrockets to our take profit for an easy win. Let's do a supply example, and then we will go over the secret trick. Here we have aggressive selling. While this aggressive selling was happening, we identified the break of structure. We marked the supply zone at the indecisive candle right before the aggressive move. Wait for price to come up to the zone. Enter here, set your stop loss right above the zone, and set your take profit at the low of the move. And just like that, we have a nice and easy trade. Now it's officially time for the secret tricks to improve this strategy even more. These tricks will significantly improve your supply and demand zones. First trick, you want price to slowly approach your supply and demand zone. For example, if price goes up aggressively and you draw your demand zone like normal, you want price to slowly come down to the demand zone when it returns. The slower and the more steady, the better. If price returns to your zone like this, in a very aggressive and sharp manner, you will not enter into this trade. You want price to slowly come down to your zone. This tip in itself is a game changer. Tip 2. You want a fair value gap at the beginning of the move. So remember how I told you to mark your zones at the indecisive candle before the big aggressive move? You want a fair value gap connected to that candle. So here you can see price jumped up super fast after this candle and created an imbalance right here. This is exactly what we want. If this happens, it will improve the chance of your zones working even more. If something like this happens where price just slowly creeps up after the candle, this would not be good. The zone still might work, but it has a way higher chance of working if it has a fair value gap like this example. So, quick recap of the perfect supply and demand trade. First, you want a strong, aggressive move. The move must be very aggressive. This is very important. During this move, it should have made a break of structure. It should have also created a fair value gap during this move connected to the very first candle like it did here. We then want price to slowly come back to the zone. No sharp movements, nice and slow. Once it comes back down to the zone, enter here, set your stop loss below the zone, set your take profit at the high of the move. And just like that, you have a nice trade with good profits. If you want more trading tips and strategies like this video, and subscribe to this channel for more trading tips. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.